In homes and screens our lights unite, classrooms stretch beyond four walls. Through every challenge day and night, our faith and growth still calls. Parents guide with gentle hands, teachers walk each step inside, together building future lands where values never hide. Though paths may shift and seasons change, our hearts stay close, our goals arrange. A journey set by trust and care, a mission we all share. These are the bridges we create, from school to home, from heart to heart. Learning grows and values shape, in every role we play our part. Work in progress day by day, hand in hand we find our way.
Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening sa inyong lahat.
Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
Ako nga pala si Jean Kenneth M. Ilagan.
Ako si Louis Benedict Ignacio.
I am Albert Alvin H. De Jesus.
This is Dr. Giselle Barion.
This is Telma Maranya.
This is Attorney Dwight Ramos.
I am Dr. Evelyn Songko and I am happy to be with you.
Ikinagagalak ko makasama kayo lahat sa isa na namang makabuluhang kwentuhan dito sa Bridges.
Excited naman ako sa introduction mo, Dr. Louie. And I'm really so excited to be here.
It's really my pleasure to be invited here because this is a very good platform po. Not to be only bridging faith, hope, and love, but at the same time bridging the bond between the alumni and their alma mater.
Kaya tayo merong Santa Cruzan as a culminating activity of our devotional practices of the Blessed Mother, because all devotions to the Blessed Mother should always lead to Jesus.
Ang mga popular na issues sa mga Pilipino, no? Yung mga may kinalaman sa sikura, mga economic issues, trabaho, inflation. Pero kahit ganyan pa, makikita na ang mga Pilipino nagbibigay ng attention sa mga political issues gaya ng West Philippine Sea issue.
We need our future generations to meet their own needs without sacrificing also yung mga needs natin na nararanasan natin ngayon. So we need this clean air, malinis na hangin, malinis na tubig, yung lupa natin hindi pa poison, then okay pa yung mga karagatan natin, okay pa yung mga kabundukan natin.
O kaya naman dati maayos ang pagsasamahan ng mag-asawa, bigla na lang may nangyayari na hindi nila inaakala at yung kanilang family bond humihina. Pati yung relasyon nila sa Diyos biglang humihina.
I love you. I love Jesus, Holy Spirit, and Mama Mary. Thank you and God bless.
But it's not out there to, boost taxpayers. Di pag nalugi yung taxpayers, di mo babawasan yung magbabayad ng tax.
First and foremost, we embrace change. We need to cultivate our passion for learning and to be flexible based sa Tomasian values ng commitment, competence, and compassion.
Go back to your core. When things are really, really tough, when you're going through transitions, when you're going through changes, go back to who you are as a person and as a leader. And at the same time, yung core values natin as Tomasians dati, perfect din parate as a guide for me. You always have to be competent, you always have to be committed, and more importantly, the compassion side of it is going to be your edge in any kind of workplace that you're going to be working.
Happy anniversary to Bridges! Here at Bridges, we build bridges of faith, bridges of hope, and bridges of love.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm your host, moderator for this afternoon. Just to, our topic for today is Econ Echoes, Millennial Voices, Generation X Wisdom. So today we dive deep into the waves of change shaping our economy through the eyes of the next generation and the seasoned insights of midlife experts. So join us, we explore the challenges, opportunities, and the voices that resonate in today's financial landscape. So let's hear what millennials and Generation X have to say because their echoes will define our future. So this is a very timely discussion beyond economics as numbers. It's about how economic realities, climate change, as our recent flooding is happening, and the intergenerational collaboration are shaping the future of the Philippines. So we'll connect with global and local friends with the realities of this recent flooding and climate disruption and highlight how institutions like UST, to advocate sustainability as our core drivers for national progress. So just to have a short background of myself, I'm a UST AB Economics 1991 graduate. So from there, I worked with Chevron Corporation for 29 years. I retired when I was 50. Then I got bored, so I started my business, mainly focused on AI and ESG. I'm also currently the president of the UST AB Economics Alumni Association. So we're working closely with Dean Melanie of the Faculty of Arts and Letters and kay Doc Alain. So we have this project of making UST as the center of excellence for sustainability and ESG. Okay. Okay, so but friends, before we proceed and introduce our guests, please like and share our Facebook page and follow and subscribe to our Tomasian Alumni Community YouTube channel and also the Card Balita FB page. So our episode today is sponsored by the College of Arts and Letters Alumni Association Incorporated and the UST Alumni Association Incorporated. So I'm excited to introduce our distinguished guests. So I'll start with one of our guests is Justin Nico Lazo. He's an instructor of the University of Santo Tomas Faculty of Arts and Letters, Department of Economics. So Justin is an instructor at the University of UST and worked as immersion teacher supervisor at Colegio San Agustin, Makati, cum laude economics graduate and MS Economics from the LSU Carlos Chu School of Economics. His research interests include education, agriculture, socioeconomic research, and impact evaluation with projects focusing on ecological economic modeling and community development. And the other guest that we have this afternoon is Sosimo Membreve Jr. Is a graduate of Bachelor of Arts in Economics from the University of Santo Tomas. So lahat kaming tatlo rito are graduates from the Bachelor of Arts of UST Economics. So si Sosi obtained his MA in Economics and PhD major in Economics from the same university, from UST. He's currently the program coordinator of the graduate programs of the School of Management and Information Technology at the Rizal College of San Benil. He's currently the research coordinator for the Leadership, Management, and Entrepreneurship cluster of the said college. So prior to this role, Sosi was an energy market analyst and energy economics officer at Meralco Power Generation. So his roles allows him to conduct research and strategy on energy pricing, focusing on the strategic structuring of electricity prices for selected power generations. So as giving strategy from different economic circumstances. So she also worked with the universities and companies in creating a sound economic decision in line with development and sustainability. So he has published Scopus Index papers and attended different conferences globally to discuss his perspective and research in line of the sustainable development and development economics. So again, without further ado, let's welcome Justin and Zosie. Welcome, Justin and Josie. You probably have a few minutes before start.
Thank thank you very much, Sir Yin, no? And I'm very excited to be here. And this is my first time actually. So yeah, thank you for having me here.
Okay. Okay, how about Sosi?
Thank you also for inviting me in this podcast. Same with Justin, it's my first time to be invited in a podcast like this. I hope and I pray that you will get something from me after the interview. And whoever is watching right now, hopefully they will gain new insights now. Thank you.
Okay. So it seems to be yung perspective natin ng millennial will be coming from the both of you. Looks like I'm the only Generation X here, so I'll share my Generation X perspective. Okay. So probably we just start. Okay. So just to start, we make it very informal, right? So I'll just ask you, by one. So probably my first question is in terms of our current economic landscape. So Justin, in terms of the global trends, what's your, perspective in terms of inflation, global supply chain disruptions, oil price volatility, and geopolitical tensions like the West Philippine Sea. So what's your perspective in those kind of economic outlook?
For me, siguro po, no, let me start first with one of my research interests and much more comfortable discussing regarding the education specifically. No? Um, I think there has been a lot of articles right now saying that we are experiencing an educational crisis given the results of the PISA tests. So one thing that actually, as a teacher as well, it's actually a challenge for everyone to actually improve the scores of our students. The reason why we need to discuss this is because we want to know how competitive our graduates will be once they compete outside. Kasi right now, the competition is no longer domestic, but rather the competition is on an international landscape. Up until now, there's still a lot of crisis happening in terms of the education sector. And I think that is something that I would very much be comfortable talking about in terms of what is happening in the current economic landscape. The reason why I'm discussing education and I'm very passionate about this because if you look at this is actually potential labor in terms of economic economic contributions. So if we will not be able to improve our education sector in terms of our policy advices, ano na mangyayari doon sa ating mga how are we going to be competitive, especially right now there's integration, there's a lot of globalization happening. So the other one naman, I think Sir Ian, you discussed about the economic outlook. Given with the lot of corruption that has been discussing in the media, especially on the flood control projects, medyo, of course, it will have effect in terms of the business outlook of our, of the business or in terms of how investors view the country. Because I think it's basic economic that if we see that the government is free from corruption, being efficient, it's a good avenue for businesses to actually invest in the country. So parang that's a challenge in this current economic landscape in terms of the Philippines. Yeah, that's for me.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Sosi, what's your perspective?
Sure. Probably I can begin with no, with a very basic framework in that we hear all around this VUCA, no, yung volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. I think if you will try to look at it in a global perspective, we are here insofar as because you mentioned about inflation, global oil prices, supply chain, etc. When I was in the energy sector, it was one thing that we always look into. No, if you are a business, of course, you would need to understand the global oil prices, for instance, and we know for a fact that global oil prices is very much volatile, right? It typically depends on the it typically depends on what's happening not only in the global supply. It doesn't only depend on, let's say, specific economic circumstance, right? But normally nakadepend yung prices sa kung ano man ang nangyayari, no? So if you will try to look at the Philippine performance right now, if you will just try to look at the EFN or Economic Freedom Index in terms of ease of doing business, we are relatively, if you will try to look at it, we're relatively better than the previous years. Okay, so I would
It's
like to
good.
emphasize the term relatively, right? But if we will try to look at the different operations that are happening in so far as global supply chain, for instance, let's say if we will try to compare, let's say, the supply chain in the Philippines vis-a-vis our neighboring Asian countries, we know for a fact that we can still improve because there are certain commodities that will have, let's say, a waiting time of 3 days, 1.8 days, and it's a little something that will disrupt different operations and all the other economic goods and services, and among others that will, I don't know, that will eliminate any economic instances na related to your operations. Because apparently, if it will take time before you can get a specific good, then yun nga, yun sa economics tinatawag natin yun na trickle-down effect. There is always a trickle-down effect. And it also, sorry if I will talk too much. Last na siguro, no, last factor that I
Right.
could look into, last factor that I could look into is, let's say, the global competitiveness of our peso. Because I think if you are currently investing in US dollar, for instance, or euro, you would see that our peso is depreciating, right? And over time. And why is it something that would affect us as an economy, or let's say if you're an individual business, how will it affect you? Because a lot of our commodities are imported from different countries, right? And our base currency is US dollar. And if we continuously have, or if we will continuously experience depreciating peso, then we will have a lot of problems insofar as regular operations are concerned. So why did I start with VUCA, with volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous? Because if you will try to look at it, peso depreciation, global supply chain, etc., is interconnected, right? So that's the difficulty in studying economics. That makes our study a little difficult, no, right? More difficult right now because one specific instance, for instance, Russia-Ukraine war in 2022 when it started, right? It is the trigger of increasing oil prices. And why is it we don't want increasing oil prices? Because increasing oil prices, will increase the value of your supply chain, thereby increasing the overall prices in the economy. No, so and then considering the complexities, no, of our global supply chain and economy, nakasama pa yung problem right now with the environment, and it will make our problems like more and more complex. And that's why having economists in a certain company has never been more important right now. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I won't let you go. So that's a good segue. My next question for you guys.
All right.
So, for in terms of the millennial perspective, right? So, in the increasing interest in sustainable investments, green energy, ESG aligned businesses, what's your perspective on this?
I think the global market is already being competitive insofar as green investments are concerned. The last time I was working with the energy industry, I know that there are a lot of initiatives from not only the local government unit but also from the private sector the to increase green energy. I will just focus with energy because I used to be part of that. No, as you know, as we a lot of economists know, no, in 2030 we have a target to reach. Please forgive me if my number is incorrect. No, we have a target of 35%. 35% as far as I remember, according to Copenhagen, energy generation that is from renewable energy. So that includes solar, wind, etc. Right. So because of our commitment to this Copenhagen, a lot of companies are starting to do starting to create different green initiatives, and not only green initiatives, but also since it is a commitment, right? A lot of industries are also following, right? I think if you will dig deep in our understanding in economics, now there's already the presence of green bonds, and I think that's the more popular one, not only in the Philippines but all over the world. There's already an initiative to make lending, for instance, much easier if the initiative is related to green. If the initiative is green in nature, meaning it will be something that will help the environment. But little do other individuals know there's also an initiative in the United Nations, but not only in the United Nations, but all over the world to have this quote and unquote blue bonds. No, so yung blue bonds naman is for certain countries like archipelagic countries like us in the Philippines. I think Filipinos were one of the individuals who initiated that initiative pero kumbaga had that initiative to create another form of funding or anything close to that that will help individuals with initiative that is related to yun nga, anything na environment, something that will help the oceans, waters, etc. So I think it's already a trend in the global economy to really help sustaining our, help create an environment that is better for everyone. Yun lang.
Okay, yeah. So probably add Sosi, So sa Philippines, di ba si Central Bank requires all
Yes.
to submit an
Yes.
annual sustainability report, and that includes yung kanilang green loans, right?
Yes, yes,
So there's a
yes.
special
Even the
rate that they provide. And also, of course, the
Mhm.
SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, I
Yes,
attended one of the events this year. Sabi nila 96% compliance na sa submission ng annual report for the
nice.
corporations, the publicly listed. And next year, it will be mandatory. But medyo
Mm.
kulang pa yun. Because when I asked them, when you receive the report, what do you do with it? Do you know what's your carbon footprint? Hindi pa nila alam. So we're still a long way, but it's a that they're starting doing it. Yes. Okay. So Justin, what do you think? What's your perspective on this one in terms of sustainable investments, green energy? Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is something that napakaganda ng progress ng in terms of the ESG, especially right now. I think it's the a lot of companies are actually mandated to actually create sustainability programs or sustainability targets. I think there's just medyo nagkaroon lang ng konting challenge no in terms of implementing this in this era that Trump 2.0 era. But however, I think as you can see, no, especially with the reporting of those ESG sustainability projects or sustainability efforts of the company, it is something that is very effective in terms of creating impact to our yun nga tama nga yung sinabi ni Sir Yen, no, after the reporting, what happens next. I think one of the problems, I think if I remember, in terms of trying to compute their carbon contribution. So how are they actually contributing, or how do they compute their carbon emissions in terms of their maayos ba tayo na is there a singular method that they use all across the company to count for carbon. That is something. But I think it's a good step actually compared to the other previous years. It's a good step of companies because these companies creates a very big impact in terms of our environment. So if ever they will be able to have sustainability practices, but this sustainability practices must not only cut across on terms of reducing their plastic, it should be embedded already in their operations. So yun dapat yung nandoon. Yeah.
Again, good segue, Justin. So tayo, UST Economics alumni, we're advocating UST to be the center of excellence for sustainability. Okay, so we're working with Dean, Melanie, and Dokali. So how do we do this? So they already created a task force for sustainability ESG. So the first thing we need to do is establish a baseline, right? So ano ba yung ating carbon footprint? How do we manage the wastewater? Right? Diba? So we need to do that baseline. Okay? And then once we do the baseline, then we will do a roadmap. Diba? For example, if UST wants to be carbon neutral by 2040, diba? What do we need to do? Diba? So, lagay tayo solar, bigay tayo ng wind. So, there are many options. So, the academe will make those recommendations for us. And tayo namang alumni, based on our network, based on our global presence, then we will connect it. So that, again, to the point of Justin, it's not just theories, but in practical, right? For example, if we want to reduce yung ating single-use plastics, diba? UST as a campus can start, let's not use a single-use plastic. Diba? Para again, on our ESG roadmap, it will reduce our waste disposal, right? But again, yung students natin, when they graduate, sanay na sila na hindi sila gumagamit ng single-use plastic. So in practical use, hindi lang siya in theory. So in a way, we're developing our students to be ready on outside world. Kasi kahit anong course sa UST, from engineering, from architecture, from nurse, because we're working with all industries right now. We're working with healthcare, we're operating with malls. Lahat, everybody's preparing their sustainability ESG. So it's a niche, or it's a good to know that, UST graduates are, in a way aware of this. Diba? That will be our competitive advantage. So those are the things that really from theories, right? So from to actual use. Okay. Next, again, the question is for Generation X insight. So I'm probably asking myself, right? So again, we are the Generation X. We experienced the 1997 Asian financial crisis. So we were the one who experienced the 2008 global financial crisis. Of course, everyone experienced COVID-19, right? So we know the importance of long-term planning, diversification, and resilience, right? So again, we need to ensure our business, home communities are climate resilient. So ako, ang say kasi yung climate change, di kasi yung iba, yung tinatanong, is it real or is a hoax? But again, look at for the past, 10, 15, 20 years, and now, this year alone, diba, we experience extreme heat, diba? And then we experience extreme rain. Last Saturday, not sure if you were caught, alam ko, Ateneo, nalubog, and then very weird, in just 2 hours, equivalent ng Ondoy rain for 5 days on specific area. So again, there's a lot of need to preparation for those things, right? So again, our infrastructure, yung ating drainage, it's not enough because it's not designed to be. So what I'm just saying is that what we're experiencing this year, that will be a reality for the coming years, right? You cannot be just complaining, but we need to act now, right? To, because it's a reality. Hindi naman tayo pwedeng prating binaba, but we need to have some solutions for it, right? So again, I'm based in BGC. So pag umuulan, I don't see na nagfa-flood and everything because we have a big catchment. Then there's a engineering solution that is here. So kahit gaano kalakas ng ulan, never pang binaha because we have that. But the question is, can we do that to the entire Metro Manila or entire Philippines? The other one there is, again, the behavior. Wala kasi siyang basura. Diba? Kung ginawa mo nga yun sa isang area, but puro naman yung social natin, yung ating citizens are throwing garbage, and then useless din yung ating engineering solution. And again, I'm also advocating, so I'm working, very closely with the Israel Embassy. So for their tech agriculture, right? So one of those discussion is yung ating mga produce, like what the Metro Pacific Farm did in Bulacan. So they have an 8-hectare property na partnership between Israel Embassy, Israel company, 40%, and then 60% na US. They spent ₱1 billion for that one. But they produce lettuce, they produce mga cherry tomatoes, all these vegetables. So whatever, season, umulan, sobrang init, we have a steady supply of produce. Ngayon, imagine if you replicate that, not at big scale, di ba, all over the Philippines, then again, the question is, our food security is, is secure. Like, for example, also another client of mine is, I'm not sure if you know Pampangas Best, the Tocino, right? So
Yes.
their client, did you know that 100% of their items are imported from Brazil? So we don't even, we don't even have our own. So again, we're always complaining on this, but we need to start making the solutions, right? Again, for me, hindi ako masyado umasa sa government, right? Kasi but the private sectors, we need to start, right? So working on that one and look at technologies, right? So how can we do it? So even give you example, diba? So yung kanina sinabi ko greenhouse, diba? Si Israel, meron siyang banana plantation. Okay, normally yan, pag may sira, lagyan mo na fertilizer. Now, they use satellite and drones. So, ina-identify based sa kulay ng leaves na kulang siya ng fertilizer. So, yun lang kanyang dadala ng fertilizer. Again, that's technology. Right? So, again, you don't waste fertilizer to fertilize the entire, number of hectares. So, mas efficient. Diba? So, again, they were telling us, so 1950s, ang kanilang population, 30% are farmers. Today, ang farmers lang nila, ng total population is 3%. But they produce more agricultural products. They're the number one exporter in Middle East because of technology. Okay. And then, before, parang pareho ng problem natin. Kasi di ba, good or bad, nag-agrarian reform. Diba? So how come we cannot compete with Vietnam, mga Thailand? Kasi yung ating rice field, 7 hectares lang. Diba? And for them, they have hundreds of hectares. So mas efficient. Then they can use technology. So ginawa ng Israel, ganun din siya before. Maraming mga small lots. So ang ginawa niya, ito isang farmer, bawa kumikita ka ng 100,000. Babayaran na kita ng 100,000. Bigay mo na sa akin yung land mo. I'll pay you every year, but I will farm it myself. Ngayon kasi big scale na siya, they can do more. They can produce more. So I think one way for us, probably leapfrog from all the others is the use of technology, to be more resilient in the market, especially for us. We are 115 million in terms of our population, right? And they're expecting us to be 150 million in the next 50. So we need to feed the people, right? So we need to manage our pollution, our carbon footprint. So again, that's from the Generation X perspective in terms of being resilient. Okay. Okay, going to the next topic, right? So in terms of bridging, intergenerational exchanges, right? So what do you think of, because again, we look at from generation, right? So boomers, of course, we have a few boomers in the call, and Generation X. So mostly they have the wisdom because of the experience, right? Discipline and crisis-tested strategies. And then for the millennials and Gen Z, like the both of you, so you have these digital skills, innovation, and sustainability mindset, right? So now is that how do we collaborate? So, knowing what we are right now in terms of intergenerational, like us, like mostly of our alumni here. So how do we ensure that both traditional values and modern sustainability practices are shared and applied? So, see, you probably want to start on that.
I think in terms of collaboration, it has been for most companies that I am for the most of the companies that I work with, they usually hire at least from my previous company, no, we have a perfect blend of different generations, no? So that we will be able to know, the because insofar as policy is concerned, most of the time, in at least if I will try to envision, if I will try to look at it, the younger generations are usually more idealistic, right? And as the generations, or should I say, as the generations are increasing, most of the time they already have the different practical a more practical side or anything close to that, no. The question is, how do we bridge that gap? I think it is whenever we meet halfway, because the last time I remember, when there was an initiative to reach the 35% carbon footprint, we had a feasibility, or should I say, we had this feasibility study on whether or not this could be achieved by the, let's say, by the different private sectors. And if you will try to put it in, we had a simulation before, and I do since it was 3 years ago, I hope that my values are still correct. But during that time, for us to be able to reach that, for us to be able to reach that goal, generally, ideally, we need like 102 billion US dollars so that we will be able to reach the our target of 35% generation that is coming from renewable energy or anything close to that. If you will try to put it in a, let's say, boomer's perspective, I don't want to say that term, but anyway, it's a generic message. If you will try to put it in the boomer's mindset, there were certain individuals who would say we would rather pay for whatever is needed to be paid because that amount is too much, right? But if you will try to listen to, let's say, not the Gen Z probably, but let's say and not the I'm Gen Y, so I'm a millennial. So, but if you will try to listen to a Gen Z, one thing that they would tell you is, oh, why not try to look at the, let's say, government international fundings that are present? Why not try to do this? Why not try to do that? But some individuals would say that it takes time, it takes a lot of papers, it takes this one, it takes that one, it takes a lot of manpower, and sometimes if you will say it to a Gen Z with idealism, right, and with really the sheer job, because the way I see it, a lot of millennials and even Gen Z are really passionate towards sustainability. That's how I see it. It's already a trend. So if you will listen to a Gen Z, and let's say if a boomer probably will say that to a Gen Z, they will try to find options, etc. And sometimes since they have the energy, they will do it because the idealism is still there. And then hopefully, I don't know if I don't know because I already moved away from that company. I don't know if it materialized, but I know a lot. I can see in LinkedIn that I have a lot of Gen Z and even millennial friends who are still currently pursuing sustainable energy in the Philippines. So because in their perspective, it's not only the knowledge that they learned in school. Um, I mean it I mean, their idealism and their perspective, their love for sustainability doesn't end at, at school. It should continuously happen while they're already in practice in the field now. So, how do we bridge the gap? I think it's when we meet halfway, no, whenever we are collaborating, because sometimes I think this is again my perspective, no. I think, I remember I always share this with my students, when there was a Russia-Ukraine war. I hope and I pray that I did not say my company, but when there was when there was an anyway, hopefully, can you cut this? Hindi, joke, hindi, joke. But I remember when there was a Russia-Ukraine war, and then there was a suggestion on my end to do hedging. Hedging is very basic now. We buy low, we sell high, right? And towards foreign exchange, one person told me that you do not tell that to our boss. I will not just tell the position. That person told me that you do not tell that to our boss because if he will hear the word hedging, it's either he will ask you to do another simulation because my work before does a lot of forecasting, simulation, etc. He told me that he will either he will ask you to do another simulation or he will just remove you from the post and put you to another post, something like that. Because anything that is related to hedging is he's allergic to that, no. And then I told my colleagues before that, I think it's the most logical thing to do because if you most of the time when we do hedging, there's a simple risk premium that we add, right, or anything close to that. And then later on in life, when no longer there, I just realized that they are already exploring the there are some individuals from the team is already exploring the possibility of doing hedging because they have seen the volatility of the market, and it's better to put a premium, let's say for instance in it's better to put a premium in, sa isang transaction or anything close to that than to be exposed with the market risk or anything close to that. So how do we bridge the gap? In my perspective, it's really with the collaboration. And let's say, I think it's just really listening on how will we really benefit on one action over the other. No, so especially I think for most individuals who are working towards sustainability, because if you will try to look at it, doing sustainable initiative is initially expensive, no. If you will try to look at it, when we had our initial feasibility study in adapting hydrogen energy in the Philippines, and you know that hydrogen energy is different from hydro energy, right? And in the European, in first world nations or developed nations, they're already adapting that because it has lesser carbon footprint or anything close to that. When we had that initiative, when we had the research there, we realized that the LCOE, the levelized cost of electricity, is much cheaper. The non-renewable energy is much cheaper than that hydrogen energy. But later on, I am not sure if we are still pursuing that. But the point is, sometimes just doing sustainability initiatives could be expensive, but as we know, it's more worth it in the long run. So it's a matter of really collaborating different ideas and thoughts from different generations. Yan lang po.
Okay, so see, I truly relate with you, right? So I deal a lot of companies, and of course I deal with a lot of baby boomers. So for them, sustainability is about compliance.
Yes,
To,
admittedly.
to convince them is to show them numbers, right?
Yes,
So it's
yes,
to show
yes,
them
yes, yes,
numbers.
that's
Now,
true.
I attended this energy summit a few months ago in SMX, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as you know, right? So si Ayala, they always want to be the first mover. They want to be the first.
Mm-hmm.
ATM, they're the
Mm-hmm.
first one. Si sila SM, they want to be a fast follower. Sige, sila, gawa kayo ATM, sige, mag-ATM muna kayo. Susunod na kami. We'll review ano yung mga ano nyo, we'll do the best. So, kinuwento ni SM, yung SM Nord EDSA, they started putting solar panels 10 years ago. Okay. But mahal pa yung solar panels. So, wala silang ginawa. But starting this year, lahat ng malls, lalagyan nila ng solar panel because yung cost ng solar panel now is 10% of the cost 10 years ago.
That's true, that's true.
Again, it's not just the advocacy, but again, the number shows.
The numbers, yes, that's true.
Then so those are very very critical. So Justin, what's your perspective on this one?
Ako, for me po, Sir Ian, I think it's in terms of collaboration between, I think, tama yung sinabi ni Sir Zosin na the Gen Zs are very passionate about this because I think it stems from the fact that sila yung mamamana nila yun as they grow old.
Yes.
So they're very passionate about it. It's more of a value oriented to them because this is our future, no? So that's the reason why they're fighting for their home, basically. And sustainability is one thing that a lot of Gen Zs and millennials are into. Of course, the question is how you achieve sustainability is another topic to discuss. Siguro in terms of tama yung sinabi ni Sir Sosi, open bridging the gap. Ako, for me, it's more on openness eh. if we remove that sense of ageism between the two, na ito bata ka pa, marami ka pang kailangan malaman, or ito matanda na ito. If we remove that kind of, it's a good collaboration between something that is practical and something idealistic. Let me give you an example. Sir, yan yung sinabi mo, technology. Yes, that's correct. No, if we will be maximizing the use of technology in terms of fighting, or in terms of decreasing, for example, the carbon footprint. Let's say, for example, in agriculture, we all know that agriculture contributes a very significant amount of carbon in the environment. So imagine if the technical expertise of the one that is experienced and also yung mga digital natives natin na mga Gen Zs merge together. I think it's something na something that we can address sustainability in a heads-on. We're trying kailangan lang natin siguro yung Gen Zs, yung passionate, yung idealistic, a little bit of, we will try to put it in a realistic kind of sense. Kasi it's easy to say that they're still in the ideal na we will want to change the world, especially for those who are, ako din, no, when I graduated from UST, yung motion ko na I would want to make a contribution to the country is still there. So if we will be able to, then suddenly they will say na mamamatay yung ganong idealistic as you go on with the corporate, etc., no, as you go further. I think dapat we remain that idealism with our students, especially once they collaborated with different age groups, especially when we're talking about sustainability. So isa yon. I have been when I'm hearing topics from my students, I've been teaching for 7 years already. And if you will ask them, okay, what project can you think of in terms of sustainability? Some will say shallow things, yung mga concert for a cause. Matatawa ka na lang sa mga suggestion nila. But some will say actually good topics because they have, as I noticed, no, our students, they have something that we don't have. They have those informations na dati we don't have that much compared to now. They have their AI in terms of ideation. So from there, makikita na nila they have Google, they have a lot of informations that they can get to be able to create and good suggestion in terms of our sustainability projects. And if ever, one thing that I noticed when I'm working also with Gen Zs, if they will be able to make a suggestion, I think it's more on like being a mentor to them. Okay, let's try to improve what you said. This is something impossible, but let's do it like that. And they appreciate that. I think it's more on, ang napapansin ko sa mga Gen Zs ngayon and the young people, they prefer mentorship. So, hindi na sa kanila effective yung yung terrorizing, more of like that. No? They prefer mentorship. And if ever that there's a value of openness in collaboration, especially in creating projects in terms of sustainability, I think we will be able to reach those targets that seems to be impossible. Well, I'm just thinking on the idealistic, I don't know, perhaps, no, if everybody collaborates, no, with one another. So, yun, I think that's something na, kasi minsan if ever you remove it already, binagsakan mo ng realidad yung project, minsan it gives a low it gives a low morale to the Gen Zs that trying to suggest projects because they themselves would want also to contribute. So I think that's something that we can consider in terms of collaborating effectively. Anyways, we are in economics, and one of the things that we would want always to achieve is optimality and efficiency. So I think if you're able to dovetail these ideas, mas maganda. So it's something that much effective.
Okay, thank you. That's good point, Justin. So yeah, just while we're talking there, I remember I was in San Francisco last year. I attended the AI conference. Okay. So I'm trying to upskill myself but it's too technical for me. But my one key takeaway there is that normally, there's a work, you need to do 6 hours of it, right? And then the last 2 hours, you're already tired. So I'll do it tomorrow. Now, because of technology, that admin work, repetitive work can be done in a matter of minutes. You spend your cognitive on more productive things, right? So it's about, how do you leverage technology? Again, cut across generations. If you're willing to adapt it, right? So next month I'll be in Dallas to speak about AI in the fuel industry. So my message is, you can avoid or not adapt AI, but if your competitor is using AI, then you're on the disadvantage. Right? So again, for you guys are on the academe, right? So there are things that we can do. I call it the University 2.0. How do you leverage technology to, to improve? Kasi iba na iba na ngayon, di ba? Yung generation namin, pupunta pa kami sa library para mag-research. Pag wala doon sa UST Library, pupunta pa kami sa National Library dyan sa Meloneta to have a better scope. Ngayon, you don't need it. Di ba? So again, but again, that's a reality. So again, I think Zosie mentioned earlier, is it yung students, the new generation ngayon, hindi, ano ba, they're not, di ba, yung comprehension is not there. So again, how do we make them knowledgeable? So, kailangan matuto eh. Whatever ways, di ba yun ang challenge, di ba? Kailangan pag-graduate nila, they understand these things, they know this knowledge. And we know that, you can have, information is on in your phone, but the question is that the right information. So again, it's very, you just, absorbing that technology around us. Some will be very simple, some are very complicated. As you mentioned earlier, di ba? Yung economy natin, 1/3 is, dollars from foreign workers being here. And then 1/3 is from our BPO call center. Okay. My thinking, my perspective, in 5 to 10 years, wala na yung call center because AI can do it. Very scary. But now, we need to start now. We need to upskill our call center agents, diba, to do AI services. So we need to prepare for it. And I'm not scaring you. I have some technology now. I'm talking to a BPO. Pwede na siyang agentless. Again, the question, ganyan, parang si SM yan, di ba? Is it financially viable? Diba? But what we're seeing now is a hybrid. You cannot be 100% just people and then 100% AI. There might be a hybrid. So the humans use AI probably 80%. So kung meron kang 1,000 employees who's doing it, baka 200 na lang because they can leverage that technology. Diba? So again, perfect example. We have a partner. Di ba ngayon pag tumatakbo before sa Cebu Pacific or sa Globe, ang tagal, mga 5 minutes, di ba, 5 minutes to, kasi hold on, check ko sa computer. Ngayon, because of generative AI, they can just type it. So yung 5 minutes, nagiging 1 minute. Di ba? Pero meron ka pa rin agent na nagtatype. So imagine, wala ka ng agent na magtatype. Si consumer tayo, punta ka lang sa website, diretso mo na siya itatype. Then they can do it. Right? So it will happen. So either it's not a question if it is happening, the question when will it happen? And then for Philippines, we need to be prepared for it because it will happen. Okay. We're closing to the end. I have a few more questions to you guys. Again, more of that is a future outlook and tips. So just need your practical advice. So I have here. So how do we encourage companies and individuals to support initiatives, like our UST, Center of Excellence for Sustainable Economic Development? Justin?
Okay. Sir Yan, no, before I answer, I would like to add something what you said a while ago on in terms of what would the university be doing or what will be the education doing. Kasi tama nga na we are in the fourth industrial revolution. And it's already happening. In fact, if you have questions, ako, for example, if I have problems with my Globe subscription, I can just simply go to the chat bot, and then suddenly they will be able to address it. And it will really affect a lot of labors. I think the university should be able to, number one, hindi mo na matatanggal talaga yung AI. It's there. So,
Yes.
it's something that is already there. You cannot just simply say to your students, do not use AI. It's like saying them, do not read. So, kasi nandyan yan eh. I think it's more of like the university should be able to do, to teach students right now critical thinking. Critical thinking, growth mindset, those are the things that needs to be emphasized to the students. And by then, how will be, as a jump point to what you've said, sir, to the question, how can we collaborate in terms of the industries? First, in terms of the academe, I think in theoretical base, research base, nandun yung university. I think one thing na sinabi din in terms of the UST Department of Economics, they're encouraging us to do researches regarding sustainability. So, because we would want to make sure that sustainability is our research portfolio. So, that is something. If we are able to give them knowledge, or we're able to give them references to the industries that they can use, then that's a good collaboration between the academe and the industries. Second is there is what we call now the Education for Sustainability, ESD, Sustainable Development. We need to make sure that our students are equipped with the ideas of sustainability. So, para pag dumating sila sa workforce, dala-dala nila yon. So, rather than us saying these are the SDGs and these are the things what to do and what to do, we need to be able to give them what are the contributions or what are the effects of this particular industry to the environment, and how do we address this. Right now, I think, for me, I'm looking into how do we create those instructions for our students, because at the end of the day, ano bang sinusupply talaga ng universities is basically equipped and competitive workforce, which will be the students. So we need to teach them, or we need to equip them necessary skills that are actually important for this particular generation. So hindi natin siguro yung mga dating techniques, we need to put it down and then look back, collaborate with the industries. They need to know ESG in particular para pagdating nila doon sa industries, nandiyan yun. Kasi we have, I think, if you look at the job space, may mga sustainability officers. So everybody is onto that. So if ever we will be equipping our students through the industries, yung needed skills, that is something that is a good and effective collaboration between industries and the academia or in the universities. So that's how I look into it. Yeah, I think more of like that. Enhancement on, I think it's also effective if may mga hands-on experiences with the industries. So it will be effective para hindi dadating yung point na after their graduation, parang wala lang, no? Parang yung natutunan nila, hindi rin naman nila magagamit sa industries. So, ayun. That's for me. But there are also topics that needs to be discussed. But nevertheless, we need to align the curriculum of what the industry really needs in order for us to meet the demands of the fourth industrial revolution, or baka nga fifth industrial revolution eh. So that one.
Okay, good, Justin. Last year, when Doc Alain became the chair of economics, it's a good opportunity to review the curriculum of that particular for AB Economics, right? So sabi ko, yun yung curriculum namin years back. Yung iba dyan, hindi na kailangan ngayon, di ba? So binago lahat. Meron ng dalawa na ayaw ko na nasa curriculum, pero requirement daw yon, which is Spanish. Sabi ko, wala nang gamit yung Spanish, but I think, sabi, you need to talk to the rector to remove that. But again, as you mentioned, we need our students equipped when they graduate. Diba? Again nga, Spanish, sino bang gumagamit ng Spanish ngayon? But again, it's a different discussion. I think 4 units yata ako nun, pero ngayon nakalimutan ko na. But again, something that's useful that our students. So good segue, Jasim, right? So that's why we want to know on ESG. So that yung practicum nila, instead of doing, kasi nga yung mga experience, I was in Chevron, tons of practicum applicants, from different schools. Why did? But again, if we supply them, which are ESG sustainability, knowledgeable, if they don't have anything yet, right? Our students can be the practicum starting for them. Diba? So si students natin, after their practicum, hindi lang siya clerical work na meron siyang self-achievement na nagawa niya yun. Diba? And then pag-graduate niya, so again, so that's the collaboration of UST, the academe, tayo as alumni, diba? Our network and the companies. That's a good combination of all of this. Again, good ideas. It's on the execution part. That's the more.
Yes.
Okay, so what do you think of this?
Thank you. I will start with the cliche. There's only one thing constant in this world, and that's change, right? So I think change. Looking back with the things that you said, sir, earlier, no, na because with the advent of AI, etc., etc., I think it's really about time with the advent of AI, with the advent of ESG, which just really started, no, in this generation. Because in the past, they are some textbook for or let's say some bitter individuals would say that it is the fault of the previous generation. Yeah, we're experiencing something like this, but of course other individuals would argue that it is only happening because it's brought about by the demands, right, of the global market. But anyhow, insofar as ano no, insofar as the mix of let's say the changes in the global landscape as well as ESG is concerned, I just want to share also that there are certain optimistic seminars that I have attended that are constantly arguing that yes, there might be certain jobs that will replace AI, for instance, but um if there with the absence of certain jobs will be kapag nawala yung isang trabaho, meron namang panibagong trabaho, di ba, na biglang mabubuo because of the differences or changes in the technology. So, yun, dun lang sa, I will never forget that optimistic seminar that attended in the past, which mentioned that, AI, in their perspective may replace human jobs, but it may not necessarily increase unemployment rate, no, because they're saying that AI, can never replace humans because nothing beats personal touch, right? Like even I'm quite sure that when you experience, Justin here earlier mentioned about his experience with Globe, and I do not know if he had a good experience back then or not, no, because in my experience, it's always something that keeps me irate, and I am very sorry, Globe, but I always give a thumbs down
Yeah.
whenever how is your experience? I think it's not only Globe, but I think 90% of the things that I have used through app na kapag AI, I always give a thumbs down because yun nga, right now I'm not used to it, no, probably I'm not, hindi ako nakaka-adapt sa change, but it's always generic, no, but of course later on they may be able to perfect it, right? And if they will be able to perfect it, probably it will be it, there will be another job na. So yeah, in line with that, no, I just want to emphasize yung nasabi ni Sir kanina na with the advent of ESG and technology, because as we have discussed earlier, there are several companies that does ESG mainly because of compliance. But I think for us to be able to encourage not only the companies but also, let's say, the academy to be able to adapt to this, no, I think it's better. I will resonate with Justin's words earlier, no, na it's good to do certain researches, no, wherein we can make people realize, not only people but even companies realize this thing called trickle down effect, no, because yun nga, because we know that our our actions are interdependent, no, na even the things that are happening in the Philippines will have an impact or implication with the things that are happening in other countries, no. I think being knowledgeable of that trickle down effect, no, as well as trying to dig in not only in the current generation but even the older generations, the repercussions of the things, continuous extraction of non-renewable resources or anything close to that. I think it will be an eye opener, no, to the industry. I think if we will try to look at certain Middle Eastern countries, no, who are somewhat dependent with oil, as their form of ang tawag dito, natural resource, or let's say yung nakakakuha ng nung ano nila, nung nagpapataas ng ekonomiya nila, diversifying their economy, right, into, let's say, tourism. They're diversifying it into other ventures na hindi related to oil, because they know for a fact that, there will come a point in time that oil will no longer be present in their country. So they have to step up their game and do something. So I think in the advent of USG and AI, no, I think the first few things that we need to understand is, yun nga, or always realize, is this trickle down effect, and try to look into avenues on how we can utilize these two things, development, constant development of technology, and ESG towards development. And I think that's where academe, industry, and the local government unit ideally, will blend into the picture. I remember we had a specific research before that talks about this plan concept, no, which is simply the collaboration of local government, academe, and non-government organization. I think if we can just keep that always, and there are certain initiatives, no, not only in the energy sector but also in certain sectors, no, that will ang tawag dito, that will be able to resonate that, no, pero or that will resonate the collaboration, and some, alam mo, we're doing something for the development of everyone. But if you can just continuously do it, no, and hopefully UST, no, will be one of the tools, or one of the individuals who will help achieve that goal. I think we can genuinely make this world a better place, not only to the current generation but also to the future generation. So that's where the concept of sustainable development, 'di ba, enters to the picture, 'di ba? By book definition, sustainable development is the development that meets the needs of the current generation without compromising the future generations, 'di ba? Textbook definition. But I think by doing so, no, and yun nga, kaya I started with the VUCA, no, as well as the trickle down effect, because putting that in our mind will make us more conscious of the things that we've been doing, not only if you're in the industry, in the academy, but anywhere you go. No? Thank you.
Okay. So I really enjoyed our conversation. Para lang tayo nasa coffee shop tatlo and then having this small conversation. And then hindi natin alam, marami pala nakikinig sa atin. So again, that ends our time, is so fast. I just probably, get your parting, words. Justin, you probably start. Your message to the group before we end the. Are you on mute, Justin?
Oh, I'm on mute. Okay. So, final thoughts. I think right now, if you can notice, the concept of sustainability is a hot topic, no? It's not, and I hope it will not only look into, hindi na lang siya economic concept, hindi na lang siya environmental concept. If we remember, when Pope Francis wrote the encyclical Laudato Si, it's become also a theological and philosophical thing. So it's very timely. And as people, we also need to reflect on our own. Kasi if you will look at in terms of fighting climate change or achieving sustainability, it really still boils down on behaviors of people. behaviors of governments, behaviors of industries. So, and as in the academe, it's a good venture for us to look into, especially when we're talking about behavioral economics. So, for the Department of Economics, I think we're very excited, no, to explore on this possible on this new research area comes to sustainability. I think that will be my end. Ano. There's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of things to work on sustainability, and we are very happy that we are having this discussion. So after this, hopefully the question will be, as I do it in my class, no, the last question will always be, as a closure, no, what can we do for sustainability if the businesses are already doing it? How do we adapt to the ever-changing trend? Because there's a concept na are we achieving sustainability? Do we compromise profit? Yeah, ganun yung ano, kasi basically, do we compromise? But it's no longer a question of compromise. How do we dovetail sustainability and achieving profit in terms of business? How do we dovetail sustainability by achieving efficiency? So I hope it's no longer, I hope we're already done with the question if climate change exists or not, no? I hope we're done with that discussion already. Nakikita naman natin dito. And then the reason why we need to talk about it still boils down with economic development. Kasi if we're not going to address the increasing climate or the increasing carbon footprint, how do we do with our food security? How do we do with our quality of life? So, ang pinaka-affected dito are the low-income households. And for me, I took up economics because I would want to contribute to the policies for the low-income households. So, yeah, sabi nga ni Dr. Zossi is that we're interrelated, lahat-lahat. So, totoo yung kanta na ang lahat ng bagay ay magkaugnay. So ayan. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you, Justin. Okay, Zossi?
I think I just want to end this conversation by simply saying that, sustainable development is a collaborative effort. No? All stakeholders or all individuals for that matter should have a mindset that we have our own contribution to create sustainable development, and hopefully for everyone, for us to be able to achieve sustainable development, we should always have a mindset that how can I be the change? Because if you want to be the change, right, you should start from something. Probably look at the way you can probably look at your throw your garbage or anything close to that, because those small actions will have we will go back to the trickle down effect, but will have a lot of good effect in not only in the Philippines but in the whole world. Never think that a simple action will mean nothing. If everyone will have that mindset, I think it will be a lot difficult for us to achieve the genuine sustainable development. Thank you.
Okay, maraming salamat. No? Thank you, really appreciate for sharing your time and experiences for this afternoon. So indeed, time went by so fast. We wish to thank our sponsors, the College of Arts and Letters Alumni Incorporated, and the UST Alumni Association, Dr. Carl Balita for helping extend the virtual reach of Bridges, and most of all, the Faculty of Arts and Letters of UST, with Dean Melanie Turingan. So dear friends, thank you for joining us today. Do watch Bridges again on Tuesday. Subscribe to our UST Tomasian Alumni Community YouTube channel and Facebook page. The past episodes of Bridges can be watched in our UST AAIFB page and YouTube channel. You may now also watch it via Dr. Carl Balita's Facebook page. Remember, here at Bridges, we do not build walls, we build connections to reach out to one another. We continue to build strong bridges of faith, bridges of hope, and bridges of love. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Mabuhay.
In homes and screens our lights unite, classrooms stretch beyond four walls. Through every challenge day and night, our faith and growth still calls. Parents guide with gentle hands, teachers walk each step inside, together building future lands where values never hide. Though paths may shift and seasons change, our hearts stay close, our goals arrange. A journey set by trust and care, a mission we all share. These are the bridges we create, from school to home, from heart to heart. Learning grows and values shape, in every role we play our part. Work in progress day by day, hand in hand we find our way. Bridges of hope, bridges of grace, in this UST learning space. In every lesson, fear or light, we plant the seeds of truth.